Coming up on Broncos Country Connected, ESPN's Jeff Legwold shares his thoughts on the dynamic coaching staff Sean Payton has compiled. Broncos scout Deon Randall will give you a look inside a day in his life at the NFL Combine, all before the Denver 7 crew shared their opinions on some of the biggest moves made so far this offseason and what's potentially to come. Broncos Country Connected starts right now. The Broncos coaching staff is assembled, the 2023 NFL Combine is behind us, and free agency is just around the corner. We're so glad you could join us for the March edition of Broncos Country Connected as we touch on each of those three topics and so much more. Last week, the Denver Broncos announced some of the additions to Sean Payton's coaching staff. On the offensive side, 17-year NFL coaching veteran Joe Lombardi has been reunited with Coach Payton as the Broncos offensive coordinator after serving in the same role for the LA Chargers over the last 2 years. In Lombardi's 2 seasons in LA, the Chargers ranked 3rd in the NFL in passing yards, 5th in total offense, and 7th in points per game. A familiar face has returned to Broncos country as Vance Joseph has been tasked with calling the defense. During his last stint with the Broncos, his 2017 defense ranked 3rd in the NFL in total defense and 4th in pass defense, while its 2018 group tied for the 5th most takeaways in the league. After helping the Vikings clinch the NFC North Division title last season, Ben Kotwica will now look to help the Broncos special teams unit make a bigger impact this season. The 8-year U.S. Army veteran will also have help from one of the most accomplished special teams coaches in NFL history, Mike Westhoff, who recently helped guide the Saints to the playoffs in each of his 2 seasons in New Orleans from 2017 to 2018. Officially, as of March 7th, the Broncos staff includes 14 new members. 3 coaches from the previous staff were retained, including defensive line coach Marcus Dixon, defensive backs coach Christian Parker, and assistant strength and conditioning coach Corey Jones. This staff is loaded with NFL experience, averaging 12 seasons in the league, 5 former players, as well as 4 Super Bowl champions who understand what it takes to win it all. Joining me now to share what he knows about Denver's new staff, ESPN senior writer Jeff Legwold. Leggy, there were a lot of new faces representing the Denver Broncos in Indianapolis last week, including head coach Sean Payton, of course. He took to the podium for the very first time ever at the Combine last week. So what were some of your biggest takeaways from that Q&A?
Well, I think he's still, Alexis, trying to sort of institute his program. He had just hired the staff, so that was a lot of the topic of conversation. But I think nationally, the story is, Sean Payton, a proven coach with a certain way of doing things, a Bill Parcells disciple, so tough, disciplined. And I think those were the themes he's presented all along, even here on the introductory press conference and again in Indianapolis was, look, I know it, he keeps saying, I know it when I see it. I have a way of doing things. It's not for everybody. Yeah. I mean, those are still the same themes. Again, you're talking about a guy who cut his coaching teeth, for the most part, under Bill Parcells. And Bill Parcells was known for pushing every player to the limit, even future Hall of Famers like Lawrence Taylor, for example. So I think that's the theme. And again, it's there will be a weeding out process here. Not every player that sort of begins this journey is going to be there when they get to where they want to be. So, and that is because he is uncompromising. He knows what he wants in the locker room. He knows what he wants from players, and it will be no secret to them.
Well, like you just mentioned, Coach Payton's staff has really taken shape. Joe Lombardi and Vance Joseph are the respective coordinators there for the offense and defense. We obviously know that you know a ton about Vance Joseph, but also Joe Lombardi. So what are some of those things that Broncos country really needs to know about these guys and the impact that they could be making here?
Well, I think Joe Lombardi's been somebody who's been with Sean Payton for a long time. And I think on the offensive side of the ball, you can tell by the composition of the staff, he was looking for some familiarity. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to have this slow ramp-up process. He wants the offense to hit the ground running. They want to get the playbook to Russell Wilson, how it's going to look, how we expect you to play, the things we want you to do. So Joe Lombardi was not a surprise pick. Even after Sean Payton got the job, I had told people I believed he eventually would be the offensive coordinator. Vance, when the Broncos, Sean Payton didn't really know Vance before he started this process, and when the Broncos checked around, almost universally, offensive coaches were saying, he's tough to play, and give him a player like Pat Surtain, at corner, he's going to be able to do some things he could not do with Arizona. But almost every offensive coach they talked to about Vance said he's tough to play and we don't know what's coming, and that's what Sean Payton was looking for. Yeah,
well, both Coach Payton and George Payton, they had nothing but good things to say about Davis Webb. You have a 28-year-old coming in to help work with a 34-year-old quarterback in Russell Wilson. Why do you think that this strategy, which is pretty unique, will pay off?
Yeah, I think, again, Alexa, you're talking about an offensive coach as the head coach. So in a lot of ways, the ultimate quarterback coach is the head coach.
Exactly.
He knows what he wants in a quarterback. But they sort of took a flyer on Davis. They knew of him, and he came in the interview and did what good people do in interviews when they want to get the job. He came prepared, he came ready to answer questions, and he came with the demeanor of, I'm ready and I want to be a coach, and that certainly was enough for them. And I think it's a good thing. You've got somebody who's dealt with the current generation of defenses. Mm-hmm. Everything's the nickel now. 5 defensive backs. Teams are in it 70% of the time. Even 10 years ago, it wasn't nearly that much. So I think this is a good bridge to the current way of playing, and it offers sort of a fresh perspective to Russell Wilson as well, who's much older than his coach, but players were older than Mike Shanahan when he first started coaching. Players were older than Kyle Shanahan when he started coaching. Players were older than Clint Kubiak when he started coaching.
Age doesn't dictate
even Gary
knowledge.
Kubiak went from the sideline to the 49ers coaching staff, immediately.
Exactly.
So there's been success at this in the league before, and I think they're hopeful they will have it again.
Okay, well, we are about a week out from the legal tampering window opening up free agency. Such an exciting time here, of course, in Broncos country and around the league. Obviously, the Broncos, they will look to re-sign some of their guys, but they're going to also look outside for some talent as well. So during free agency, what is it that you really hope the Broncos prioritize? Who's available is going to determine how they progress. There's a lot of running backs in free agency, so you're going to be able to decide if that's something you want to do. There aren't as many offensive linemen, but they're going to look there. I think they will look right tackle again. I know we've heard that story before, but I think once again they will look at proven right tackles to at least have a starting point when they put the line together. And I think they will look at defensive linemen, because I think ultimately they expect that someone can pay Draymond Jones more than they can. And I think they will have to replace that. Well, you just returned from your 35th NFL Combine, so it's good to know that you've been going to the Combine since birth, so that's pretty impressive. Yeah, no, I'm glad we framed it that way. Yeah. The Broncos' first 2 picks this year, they will come at the top of the 3rd round. So what is really your overall impression of this year's class, and can the Broncos really find some value there at the top of the 3rd? Well, I point you to Justin Simmons. That was pretty good value in the 3rd round back in the day. So, and this draft is deep at spots where they're going to be able to make some productive choices there. Running back, tons of running backs in the draft this year. Edge rushers, that will be a good area. Some corners, that will be a good area. And I think there will be some offensive linemen down the board, their interior offensive linemen that they can look at as well. So those are back-to-back picks, I believe, in the 3rd round. So they will be able to make good decisions there with guys who can come in and have some kind of future. String something together, right? Yeah. Just like we just did right now. You're going to have to. Yeah. I'm a late round pick if there's ever been one. Yeah. Mr. What is it? Irrelevant. Irrelevant. Yeah, Mr. Irrelevant. I've been told I'm Mr. Irrelevant, but let's move along. All right. Well, still to come here on Broncos Country Connected, Broncos Southwest area scout Deon Randall shares his perspective from the 2023 NFL Combine. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Broncos Country Connected. Preparation for the 2023 draft didn't begin when the 2022 season ended. It is a year-round task compiling as much insight and information on every prospect. Southwest area scout Deon Randall is one of the Broncos' 8 area scouts who gathered in Indianapolis for the 2023 NFL Combine last week. Deon gave us a behind-the-scenes look at how his day is structured while at the Combine and what the Broncos aimed to accomplish while they were in Indy.
Good morning, Broncos Country. My name is Deon Randall. I'm the Southwest Area Scout. Today, I have the privilege of spending the day with you all. Welcome to a day in the life of a scout, Combine Edition. Workout is over. Now I'm about to shower, change, and head over to formals. All right, we're back. We're in Lucas Oil Stadium. I'm walking to formal interviews. Formal interviews are basically a chance for our personnel side and our coaching staff to get more familiar with these prospects before the draft process. Ask them any question we really want, really get to better understand how they learn, what they understand, and just really get familiar with them. So I'll try to get you guys a sneak peek in to our formal interview room as I get up there. We're close. All right, I'm back. I'm with Dave Bratton, our West Coast area scout, and then Gino. It's our Southeast area scout. We're going to lunch right before workouts. All right, we're in the Denver Broncos suite here at the Combine. Today, the coaches and personnel side will sit up here and we'll watch the linebackers and the D-line work out. They'll run their 40s, they'll go through their drill work, and this will be another opportunity for us to evaluate them. So come on in. So I'm going to be looking at some of the prospects from the Southwest and just see how they test. You know, we typically have a baseline on these guys going into the school and talking to coaches and strength coaches, but it'll be interesting to see how they perform here. It's a unique opportunity for them to compete in a different space than on the field. So that's mainly what we'll be looking at. You know, if they have trained, if they have came prepared, that's all the things we're kind of evaluating here. So in the suite today, we'll have obviously the head coach, Coach Payton, and the coaching staff, position coaches, and then we'll have personnel in here. George Payton, our GM, and then the rest of the personnel staff, Muji, Stark, the area scouts, and the national scouts will be up here. We'll all be doing the same thing, evaluating these prospects in this space. It's really an opportunity to see if they fit for what we're doing and what we want in a player for the Denver Broncos. All right, end of the day. Finished up with workouts and interviews. I'm here with Kelly Klein and Gino Armstrong. See you guys.
Coming up on the other side of the break, the Denver 7 crew has been keeping tabs on the Broncos this offseason and share their opinions on what they hope follows in the next few months.
This segment brought to you by Checklinks, the proud protein partner of the Denver Broncos.
Thanks for joining us for this final segment of Broncos Country Connected. It really is an exciting time of year with the free agency legal tampering window opening this Monday, March 13th at 10 a.m. For their thoughts regarding which free agents the Broncos could potentially target during this window, their takeaways from the Combine, and more, let's head out to the Denver 7 studio to check in with Lionel Bienvenu, Troy Rank, and Ryan Harris.
Well, Ryan and Troy, Sean Payton has pretty much filled out his coaching staff, and on offense, Ryan, Joe Lombardi's coming in, a longtime associate of Sean in New Orleans. On defense, Vance Joseph is coming back. What do you think of these two very important hires?
Well, first with Joe Lombardi on offense. Number one, he knows the offense that Coach Payton wants to run, but also knows the chain of command. Understand that Coach Payton's going to still be calling plays on the day of the game, but getting people ready. And any time that you have a coach that understands the offensive plays and the head coach, that's incredible efficiency. You're going to hit the ground running. Plus, I like Davis Webb being the quarterback's coach as well. Talked to some players who knew him. They've been calling him Coach Webb for years, even though he's been still playing as recently as last year. Now, when you get to Vance Joseph, hey, come on, Lionel, third time's a charm. Let's go. His third time in Colorado after going to CU, after being the head coach here. I got to play with him. He was a coach when I was at the Houston Texans. Very fun to be around, and hopefully with reduced kind of responsibilities, he is just going to excel and help this team get back to the playoffs.
Nice. All right, Troy, you covered Vance Joseph closely during his 2 years as head coach of the Broncos. There's no doubt that Vic Fangio was Sean Payton's first choice. He basically said that. But Vic's in Miami, so Vance is back in Denver.
Lionel, I'm so old. I went to school with Vance at CU and covered him there. He was an offensive player, quarterback, then played defense in the NFL. Yeah, basically Peyton said that we scared off Vic Fangio. No, we didn't. It's just not enough time has passed since he was fired. With Vance, it'll be 4 years. Only a couple of players are left, Josie Jewell and Justin Simmons. So it really is a fresh start for Vance Joseph. He's going to bring an aggressive defense, and as Ryan talked about, less responsibility of trying to be the head coach when he was drinking out of a fire hose. And for me, he was set up to fail. Now it's just defense. And I know people look at the Arizona defense and say it wasn't great, but they were in constant chaos. He wasn't involved necessarily picking the players. I believe he will work well with Sean Payton. He's told me he looks forward to that, and he really loves the talent on this defense, Lionel.
All right, the combine's over, and now Sean Payton and George Payton have to go over the roster. And man, is that going to be a job. Who's staying, who's going, free agents. Troy, these next couple of weeks are going to be vitally important when it comes to how this team's going to look next season.
Well, listen, they've got some important decisions coming up. Draymond Jones is a guy they wanted back. It's part of why they traded Bradley Chubb, other than get the draft pick, to free up money to pay Draymond Jones. But his market is starting to explode. I think they thought they could get him at $15 million a year. He's looking at more like $17 million, closer to that franchise tag number. So can they get an agreement? Houston could be interested. The Bears could be interested. It's going to be tough anytime you let the market set the value on your player. But I do believe they'll have a good shot to bring back Alex Singleton. As for Dalton Reisner, keep an eye on a team like Buffalo. Other teams, I don't believe they're going to pay him market value. I want to see him get paid. I don't know if the fit will be in Denver. But some other guys will still come back. Latavius Murray, some of the second-wave free agents. But those top three free agents, Singleton right now is really the only one that looks like a clear shot to bring back.
Well, we talked about this, rebuilding that offensive line. That's going to be priority number one. Can you still play, Ryan? Do you have anything left? This O-line's got to be a priority, as we said.
Absolutely. And the good thing is Coach Payton's done this. He's made the offensive line a priority in his past. He went and got Drew Brees when he went to the Saints, and then went on to proceed and draft 5 linemen in the next 3 drafts, and 4 of them were actually on the Super Bowl team in that 2009-2010 season. So Sean Payton understands not only that he needs an offensive line, which some coaches don't, but also he understands how much that you have to have that group continuous, playing next to each other, having fun. I was recently with some of my Super Bowl 50 lineman mates, and it was as if we could play a game again because we'd spent so much time together. Coach Payton gets that and has said himself that he looks at free agency and the draft as 2 of the possible ways to get a player to bolster that offensive line. Currently, Lionel doesn't even have a right tackle on the roster.
Well, Ryan, as a former player and Super Bowl champ, what are the Broncos players who were on the roster last year doing right now? First week in March, I would imagine that they're starting to work out a little bit. And if you're a free agent, I would imagine you're on the phone with your agent.
Yeah, you're on the phone, you're telling people, don't call me, because if my agent's calling, I don't want the call to get missed. So there's that piece of it. But there's also players saying, hey, what's the team talking about? The Combine's a huge opportunity for agents of current players as well as future players to rub shoulders with front offices. A lot comes out of this past week, so there are going to be moves that are being made. And one of the things players on the roster are going to say are, what are the Broncos' priorities in the draft? Did you talk to George Payton? Did you talk to Sean Payton? Where do they see me? Have they gotten a call yet? So that's a big piece of it as well. And as you mentioned, Lionel, the free agents are saying, hey, what's the market? Is it up? Is it down? And there's tough conversations for players and agents at that time, because you mentioned like second tier, different free agents like that. That's not how they think right now. Everybody's thinking they're getting the most money they've ever gotten, so some dreams are going to be squandered.
Derek Carr is headed for New Orleans, which means Jameis Winston is probably leaving the Big Easy. Now, Winston was Sean Payton's quarterback of choice a few years ago. The Broncos need a good veteran backup. Can we connect these dots right here?
I think you can, because this will be the time with Payton. He was 5-2 with Jameis Winston. It could be slow developing. Will Winston look for a market where he can compete for a starting job? You're not going to compete with Russell Wilson for a starting job. But we saw last year with Russell, with a labrum injury, a hamstring injury, and a concussion, they could have used a veteran backup, with all due respect to Brett Rippon. But there's going to be 3 out there that you like: Baker Mayfield, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. Of those 3, Mayfield's the most qualified. I think he ends up in Tampa Bay, maybe even stays with the Rams. And Mariota, to me, is trending the wrong way. So I would look for Winston. If you don't like him, Hendon Hooker from Tennessee in the draft, I would take as a second-day pick.
Ryan, backup quarterback, Jameis Winston, Sean Payton, together in New Orleans. What about here?
I like it. I like Jameis Winston a lot. I like how he responded after a 30-interception season. Now, injury histories for Jamison is going to make him more available in terms of price. So that's going to be something where the Broncos currently, without anything changing on the roster, have about $9 million in cap space. So they'll have the ability to do that. And anytime you can get a quarterback that knows your offense inside the huddle, it really helps you win football games. It was one of the reasons why Gary Kubiak brought me here back to Denver in Super Bowl 50, because I knew the offense he was going to run. When you have that kind of familiarity, you can win football games.
All right, guys. Great insight and information as always. Thanks. And that's it for us here at Denver 7. Alexis, let's go back to you.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. And thank you for tuning in to Broncos Country Connected. To stay up to date on the latest news and biggest moves made throughout the offseason, check the Broncos website for official team announcements, and be sure to follow @Broncos TV on Instagram and Twitter. From all of us here at the Denver Broncos and Denver 7, thanks so much for watching.